Hi guys, this video is going to be my Monster Hunter Wilds review. I am new to Monster Hunter and I decided to give this game a try since it was highly anticipated launching after Monster Hunter Worlds. This is my first time playing a Monster Hunter game in which I really wanted to see why people like these series so much. Yeah, so sit back and relax as I talk about my experience playing this new open world Monster Hunter game. Let's get it, let's go! Alright guys, currently I am 101 hours played in Monster Hunter Wilds and I'm HR 123. My main weapon is Charge Blade, recommended by Elma herself when I was doing her recommendation list. Yeah, and I've been loving the weapon ever since. I have tried out the other weapons um, before I chose Charge Blade, but I just went with her recommendation. Yeah, and I really liked it. Now, to start off, let's go with pros and then let's go with cons because I feel like that's a good balance to kind of let everyone know what my take on my experience of this game is. So let's start off with, yeah, your mount, the Sacred, which I just named it Yoshi because the name is so hard to kind of pronounce. So yeah, so when I say Yoshi, you guys will know what I'm talking about, right? So Yoshi, my mount, is my first favorite thing I love about this game. Because when we're chasing monsters, or when we're searching for ingredients, or just experiencing the world, right? Along with friends or like your cat and all that stuff, right? Yeah, I really love it. One of the best additions to this game, and I believe, like, I can't imagine chasing monsters without a mount, right? And I'm so glad there was no, at least like there was barely any moment that you didn't have a mount in the game, like, because it's only in the beginning when they took your mount away, like you barely, like, it was only for like what, 3 minutes maybe. Yeah, other than that, A plus. I really love the mount. I Yeah, I love it so much. I named the Yoshi and I take it everywhere. I even colored it green. uh and plus that, what Yoshi does so well is when you use the wire bug, right? Because yeah, and that's the next thing I'll talk about. The wire bug is like my second favorite thing. I use it all the time when I'm on Yoshi, searching for stuff, right, grabbing materials. Um, yeah, I mean, pretty much the reason why I did call Yoshi Yoshi is because I'm contributing the wire bug as Yoshi's tongue, and I grab like everything with it. Now I don't have too much to talk about the wire bug, other than that I'm just too late. I'm just too lazy to get off Yoshi just to grab the ingredient or whatever. And it's easy to kind of run away from monsters while I'm grabbing ingredients around the monsters. So yeah, wire bug, like, second best thing. Granted, I do want the water bug to be more improved, like kind of like hooking you forward towards like a rock formation or something, or getting stuck on a monster and you kind of lunge forward it, or like damaging a wound, right? Damaging a monster's wound. Like, I would really love that. Like, they could implement more into the game because I really love the wire bug. I mean, granted, the wire bug does allow you to grab like the slingers and stuff too, but I feel like they can implement so much of it. Now, speaking of wounds, that's the next thing I want to talk about. Wounds in this game, I think it was introduced for Monster Hunter Wilds. I really love the wound system because I'm using charge blade, right? Because it allows me to switch for Savage Axe. Now, Granted, there's many ways to switch to Savage Axe, but that is one of my main ways to switch to Savage Axe because I'm too lazy to do the other ways in some cases. Granted, I do know that people. Well, I mean, I've heard that people don't really like the wound system, or there's a give and take. There's people who like it, and people who don't like it. I, for one, do like it a lot. It does make the fight easier, which is some complaints of what others have said. But to me, I'm like, it's not about easy that I'm kind of taking. It's just more like, it's a feature in the system. They'll just take advantage of it while it can. Now, granted, we'll see if updates or anything is going to change it or not. But we'll have to see because right now, pretty much, if I can't get Savage Axe without the wound, I'm gonna be in trouble, right? Because that's one of my only ways to kind of get Savage Axe. And speaking of that, speaking of wounds too, when you pretty much use your focus strike on the wounds, you get pretty much materials. Now, let me talk about focus strike. No, focus mode. Focus mode. My bad. So focus mode is another thing I really, really love in the game. When I'm doing monster hunting quests, right? Now, I believe. Okay, so before I continue that thought, what is focus mode? Focus mode is pretty much positioning your camera, like where your character is looking at, where they're striking or they're moving or like whatever, right? It's very useful, at least for me, when I use Savage Axe mode and I kind of swing the axe and I'm like I need to position myself to kind of land my hit and kind of saw down the monster. Yeah, that's really really sweet. I really really like that. With focus mode, I use focus mode like 90% of the time, I would say, when I'm hunting down monsters. So, like, if they took away focus mode, I probably would quit the game, right? Or something that I would have to adapt really hard, or probably even like change weapon. And I'm probably gonna turn down like my fun of the game. But yeah, I really like focus mode, especially focus strike. I so far, at least that I know of, the focus strike for Charge Blade is kind of like a gap closer, somewhat, with a double swing of the sword, which I find very useful. Because well, the gap closer first, and then the double hit from the sword, which would help charge my blade. It doesn't automatically charge it, but it does kind of help with some combinations. Not only that too, because I'm in Sword and Shield. Like if I miss or if I hit, I can just bring up the shield and kind of like block the hits, right? So I really like Charge Blade, focus strike. Now let's move on to pretty much the wounds, right? So I mean, well, the parts that fall from the wounds, right? Pretty much crafting, right? So crafting in this game, I actually thought it was going to be a chore. It's going to be like, oh, you gotta craft all these materials, these armors, these weapons, so you have your elements or whatever you need ready to fight against next the hunt that you need to do. Well, good thing is crafting doesn't take that long. It probably, like, I guess the most probably will take is five kills of the same monster, right? Same hunt. But I mean, but it differs too. But I feel like crafting in this game is way easier. I didn't have to like grind as much. If I wanted, like, let's just say a bone weapon, right? Like, yeah, it's pretty fast. If I want like a bone armor, like, it's pretty fast. Granted, I did make one mistake of thinking that some of the loot drops, like the gems, are like random, but I found out, at least towards endgame, right? In endgame, you can just look at the search monsters and see what they're gonna drop, and if you see a gem, then they're guaranteed dropping a gem. I learned that from my friends, right? I didn't learn that by myself. I learned that from my friends. Like, why am I grinding? Why are you grinding so much over and over? Yeah, because I didn't know, and that's one reason why my hunter rank is so high as well. Because I thought it was random. Sometimes it is, but most of the time, like, yeah, you could just search it up, or I mean, just look it up on your map to see if that monster drops it. All right, next we'll talk about the crafting. Like, you can mix and match too. Cause I didn't know that there's actually alpha and beta. Granted, because I learned from my buddy that A stands for alpha, B stands for for beta, right? The difference between the two was, well, I guess the traits, right? Like the traits and how much decorations you can attach on them. I learned it the hard way because I thought that, like, with more traits, who would settle for less, right? Who would settle for less traits? Well, I found out, there's a reason. So most of the time now, I craft beta over alpha. I still don't know 100% what's the difference is. Why is there alpha, or beta in a way, like, but that's all I know about crafting so far. And I have crafted my artisan weapon, which is the end game weapon for the game too. I just don't have too much to say about it for the pros. Okay, next let's talk about, oh, camping sites and camping locations. So I want to talk about this because it is one thing I really like about this game. Having this is so the camping sites. What's cool about it is you can, I mean, there's set locations, but you can teleport towards it, right? So it'll make it easier to um do hunts, grab materials around the world, or yeah, or just like prep up, right? Prep up because it's pretty much the same tent in like your main camp, just kind of outdoors. Granted, it could be in secure area, rated all the way to dangerous, right, or far in between, right? I don't really have too much to say other than that. My main reasons I love it is just teleporting, grabbing the materials, and teleporting to another camp, right? Like faster travel. Granted, we have Yoshi, but sometimes if you were to have the tent set up, why not? Then there's only limited camps you can set up as well, right? Not like you can set up camps at all the locations. All right, next and not least is the SOS flare. So I really like the SOS flare because pretty much it just signals you to get some friends like NPCs or some real people to kind of like join your monster hunting quest. To kind of slay the monster. Now I can understand it is easier to slay the monster if you use SOS flare. It's not guaranteed, but it is easier because the monster's distraction, like the monster is gonna, like who's it gonna aim, and you can have time to heal if you got hit and stuff like that, right? Or you run away with your mount. So for sure, I do understand it is easier to use SOS, especially if you just want to grind for materials and stuff like that. You don't really care too much about the challenge and stuff, or maybe you just want to have fun with friends. Who knows, right? Um, but I do understand people's complaint of SOS is really easy. It doesn't make the monster tougher or stronger or more HP or whatever, right? So I feel like, yeah, it's that's just how it is at the moment. We'll see if going forward they do anything with it, like they kind of buff the monster or they do something. But yeah, for sure, I do like it because that's why crafting is so easy too. Just SOS flare, SOS flare, SOS flare, right? Yeah, it's really easy. I love it. Not many negatives that I kind of see with it. Yeah, but that's all my pros I can think of at the moment. Next, let's move on to my cons. Alright guys, we're into the cons now. I'm gonna start off strong with the story. When I think about stories in the game, stories help let the player kind of like understand the world of the game, the goal of the game, and introducing like the people, the monsters, the regions, the culture, like all those stuff, right? Now, did the story in Monster Hunter Wild have these? It does, but only at a bare surface level. It wasn't really. I feel like it wasn't really enough to kind of expand upon it to kind of get the good grasp of like as if the world is. No, the world makes sense. I mean, it does make sense, but it's like really like really fast and really quick. As I'm saying, the story when playing through it, like it's just like this region, it's bam, 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 like monster story, monster or monster, monster story or story, monster, monster, and then next region, same thing, rinse and repeat. And then by the time you realize, it's like, well, it's already endgame. It's already endgame. And I would even say, if you play Monster Hunter Wilds, pretty much 3 days in a row, you probably beat it by then. You probably hit the end game, cause I feel like yeah, it just jumps by really fast. Not to mention, you don't really have too much room to breathe. Especially if you follow through the story, it's like once you beat one monster, you want to go check out their weapon or armor that to kind of craft to see if it looks cool or to kind of see the type of skills and traits it got. Well, you gotta wait until you beat like the next monster that showed up in the story, right? Well, you don't have to, but it doesn't feel like you have like a breathing room, right? To kind of like farm for that monster more and stuff like that. Yeah, it jumps right away. Not only that too, I can kind of think of one example right now. There's this part in the story where you fight like these fire monkeys, right? And it's not a quest yet, so you have to fight these two fire monkeys. You have Olivia with you, so Olivia is kind of taking on one, and you are taking on the other one. But there are times when Olivia's monkey comes and attack you, so now you gotta double team them. And then there are times when your monkey goes and attack Olivia, and you're like, okay. And the goal is to try to damage them enough so then one of them kind of runs off and Olivia chases it. So then when you're one on one, then the quest would finally start and you can shoot up a flare, right? And you're like, yep. Because for sure that's what I did right away. I'm like, I died so many times on that part that I'm like, any new player who don't know, who are not that skilled, or didn't eat the meal or prep their items, right? Their pots, mega potions. Yeah, they're gonna have a rough time, right? Because I had a rough time there. But that's just an example of like, uh, not enough breathing room. Yeah. What else about the story? That's yeah. In the story, one thing is they're supposed to kind of help explain stuff that new players don't really know that veterans might know. Examples like files, affinity, um mantles. They might have mentioned mantles a little bit. Maybe I'm gonna missed it because it was probably really quick. But like flashbangs and stuff like that. Now it could be my fault. I didn't pay enough attention, but I feel like though these are stuff that would help new players kind of utilize and kind of like test out by themselves. Now there is a chance maybe they didn't explain it because they wanted the new players to experiment themselves, like learn it themselves and appreciate the game. But at the same time, I could understand that it could be information overload, and that does hurt like new players. While veteran players, like yeah, they're like they had the information ready, right? So yeah, for new players, I can understand it's a hit or miss, and that's why I'm kind of like putting in the cons of it'll be nice to know what these do, right? Like affinity, like I thought that was like elemental damage percentage, but no, that's like crit rate. Like, yeah. Especially yeah, especially the only way how I learned is through watching YouTube or from a friend, right? Because the whole time I was like, oh, elemental damage. Okay, next up, this one's a quick one. The ray dial in the game. I feel like it doesn't really work at times, or when it does work, the animation's too slow, and I feel like it didn't work. So when I flicked it again, it pretty much turns off the animation. Example, my flashbang, right? When I put it on, there's this like a minute, no, a second and a half to kind of put it on, and I feel like if it's not on yet, then I'm gonna do it again. And the moment I do it the second time, like he puts it on, he takes it off, and I'm like, whoa, this gets annoying, especially when I'm on a flashbang, Arkville, when Arkville is about to do this crazy chain whip on me, right? Because it'll be a good time to flash. Yeah, I mean, there's like another one too that I'm not remember at the moment, but yeah, I feel like the Raidao, it's it's either it doesn't work right away, like it doesn't flick turn it on right away, or it just didn't work on me. Now it might just be a my problem thing, right? But so far I relied more on just pressing the X button on my Xbox controller when I'm using potions or anything else, and it is a little annoying to kind of scroll through it when you have the Raidao to kind of help you. All right, next off, oh, yeah, a big one. This is the big one. There's nothing in the end game that I want to do. Now, it could differ for other people, but to me, I'm like, there's nothing I want to grind. Um, there's no monsters that I want to keep killing over and over just because they're fun. Pretty much Arkville and Gore Magala, they're not really fun monsters to keep killing over and over, especially since they're the one that dropped the highest rarity, like relics and stuff. What else? Yeah, and there's really like not much. Like pretty much you're just like farming, right? The end game you just farm and perfect your perfect your equipment, your craft. Yeah, which makes me feel like yeah, I don't really have too much reason to kind of jump on that often. So in some cases, even though I'm a hunter rank 123, it's only because I didn't know that monsters can kind of drop stuff when you gotta search for them. Right? Yeah. So like I said, I don't really have much to do in the end game. So I feel like new players who also have similarities once they beat the game and they're done with what they want to kind of grind for or what they want to do accomplish in the game. Yeah, that's it. Like and the thing too is when the story ended, it just opens up the world. It doesn't really conclude at a certain point, so that kind of makes people like, well, is the story like still ongoing, or like is it now just side quests, or are they waiting for the a DLC? Right, like that's the thing where it's kind of open ended. I understand what they're doing, but at the same time, it does leave new players or even veteran players like, well, what is there to do? What is there left to do? Because you've seen practically everything in a way. Um, yeah, and the last thing that I just kind of want to mention for the cons is just in like encountering monsters too quick. Like you just learned how to beat one monster, and next you're already learning a new monster. Information overload. Now that you probably been dying left and right, especially if you're new, and then you're like, oh man, like back to this again. You want a little bit of a break. So you gotta check out your equipments, restock your supplies. Check out like if you have a cool weapon you can kind of like craft or whatever, like stuff like that. Like no room to breathe. It does put pressure on the new players to kind of like, oh man, like this is like this might not be what they want. There might be some people. Maybe that's what they want, monster over monster. But I like a little bit of that room to breathe. So at least I can kind of like soak in what I just experienced. Because I feel like some monsters, I don't even like an example is the last boss. Like right after Arkville, we fight the last boss like practically like right away. Yeah, and I don't even remember how the last boss even looks like. That's how sad it is, right? Because the last boss is not roaming in the world in end game. The last boss is coming up in like the next following content. So like until then, I'll see how the last boss kind of looks like. Other than that, yeah, the only two monsters I remember is the one I've been slaying over and over, which is Arkville and Gore Magala. Yeah, which is yeah my kind of complaint of why don't don't keep showing us monsters too fast, because in the end, yeah, we're gonna have like whiplash of like, oh, like is that what that monster do? Is it like what? Oh, is it that monster? Okay, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, that's it for my cons. So next, we're gonna go to my conclusion of yeah the game. What I thought about everything so far. Alright guys, now we're in the conclusions and my overall thoughts of the game. So first thing I want to bring up is the monsters. I didn't really talk much about them because I feel like they're kind of in the middle where I'm like there are a lot of designs that I like, but yet not enough for me to pick one that that's my favorite. But yet there's another design where I'm like they're kind of straightforward and plain, and kind of forgettable. So in a way, like they're not any pros or cons, right? So I'm like, yeah, they're there. They're monsters. They do monster stuff. The thing too is they're not really in a way impressive or intimidating to me. So like, we'll have to see when new content comes out and see if there's one that would challenge that thought. But as of the moment, the monsters are right. No complaints about the monsters. There are a lot of annoying ones, and there are a lot of easy ones as well. So that's why I'm like, yeah, that's my thought about the monsters. If you guys got to this part of the video. Next off, this Monster Hunter Wild is really good. Is a really great game actually for new players, right? Because I'm new now. The only thing is, there will be people who are new players that might see things a lot more, more to their favor, and there will be players that might see things that they want a lot more, right? I feel like I kind of fall a little bit in between those two, right? So that's just my take on it. But for sure, this game does help people who have not played any Monster Hunter series before. This is a great entry. I would recommend it 100%. Yes. Grinding in the game. I actually thought grinding in the game is gonna be tedious, but actually it's really well balanced. Yeah, it's really well balanced. What you want, you can practically get it if you just kind of set your mind to it. It doesn't take too long. Now I can understand decorations will be a little bit more of a different story, but if you grind enough, especially monsters that will give you a lot of decorations, yeah, like eventually you're gonna get the drop that you want, right? Yeah, and I can understand decoration is like the harder grind. What you're really looking for, right? Comparing to the artisan weapons that you gotta like roll for the stats and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, but I have no complaints pretty much about the grind. Yeah, so far that's my take on the grinding balance. Now end game, you don't see many new things to kind of wanting to keep playing. I kind of mentioned this in the cons, but I'm gonna mention this again in a little bit. Where new players, maybe even veterans players as well, is like, well, monsters aren't too challenging, but yeah, and we can always SOS. It's a really easy game. At least for now. Like to start, like this is the base game. Like we want a little more. It feels like it wasn't. It's like, yeah, it wasn't complete. Like there's something missing. Maybe the last boss should have been roaming the world. Maybe more monsters, or maybe just more story in general, like more side quests or something. Like, I feel like there's more the game could have provided. Yeah, but they ended like this, so this is my take. Yeah, like there's really nothing left for me to do. So that's why sometimes when I look at Monster Hunter, I don't have much reason to kind of like jump on and do the grind or do whatever in the game. Um, you and speaking of playing with friends, SOS does make the game really easy. It's not guaranteed, but I can understand that sometimes it does feel really bad to kind of like fail a quest in an SOS with friends or with random people that joined, right? Or you joining random people's SOS because it's just like, man, that's kind of disappointing. Granted, it doesn't really take that long to do another like hunting quest, but still, it feels kind of bad. Pretty much, SOS. I believe it does help new players more, but at the same time, it could kind of hurt the experience of like, are you really, is this really how you want to play? Sure, right? Or if it's not, then just don't use SOS, right? Because another way of saying is, um, SOS is easy to farm for materials and yeah, stuff like that, right? It's almost like now that it's not about the monsters, it's about the mats. It's about the decorations. It's about the relics, right? Which I'm like, but the game's about farming monsters, right? In which I understand, you get your stuff and then you farm the monsters. Oh yeah, but I think that's all I got for Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm gonna give it my final rating right here, right now. My final rating is 6 out of 10. I strongly recommend it to people who are interested in the Monster Hunter series. Granted, this is my first one, so I really liked it for a new player experience. But there are still a lot that I want more of it. The wire bug, like maybe more monsters because I still looking for a favorite. And in every game, whether it's a game like this or an MMO or even a gacha game, I always like to look for my favorite place to kind of like go, kind of like wander at, stay at, and and favorite monster to go slay, and favorite weapon and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't really have many of that in this game, so maybe that's another reason why I don't really have much reason to kind of come back to keep playing at the moment, because I know that it's just the regular daily grind over and over. Oh yeah, but that is my take. Yeah, my review. 6 out of 10. Yeah, it may seem like it's a low score, but I still give it a pass of, it's still a great game. I just want a little bit more to push the number up. And yeah, we'll have to see when new content comes out, cause for sure I'm still gonna play it for new content and kind of see where the direction this game leads. Cause yeah, Monster Hunter series is a really hyped up game, a game that I was looking forward to seeing why people love it so much. And yeah, this is my honest take, guys. Yeah, with that, I'm gonna end the video here. If you guys like my review, please like the video. If you guys have any comments, let me know in the comments below, and I'll give my I'll try to answer it the best I can. Other than that, yeah, this is it for a Monster Hunter Wilds review. Thanks, guys. I'm Isho Footprint signing out.